Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 237. Without any delay, start explanation. Though it was highly advanced, their powerful radar was not designed to detect signals from underground, so it was impossible for it to track anything 100 meters deep. Gu lay on Tang Wulin's back with her arms wrapped around his neck. He used his pair of dragon claws to open up a path as he dug forward swiftly. He was not doing digging in a random direction. In fact, he saw that there was a river nearby just as he was about to jump off the fortress earlier. He thought that there must have been a river that crossed through the great Star-Doe forest that had been revealed later on due to deforestation. The river was about 100 meters wide with an unknown depth, so he felt this was his best escape path. No. We've lost them. Do a blanket search. Use the underground detector. The spirit pagoda rapidly encircled the forest, but all their detection equipment was unable to find any sign of Tang Wulin and Gu. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. A few minutes later, the entrance of Tang Wulin's cave was discovered. However, the underground cave was already sealed, so they would need to dig it out again. Then, how were they supposed to locate Tang Wulin's path if they were so busy digging? It was already 15 minutes later when a large number of underground detection instruments was moving in convoy. The underground detection that covered the area of dozens of kilometers had yet to discover any large life forms. Tang Wulin and Gu seemed to have vanished into thin air. Whoosh! As the water roared, Tang Wulin and Gu stuck out their heads almost in unison. The cold and refreshing water flowed downward with the current and carried their bodies along with it. Tang Wulin turned around to see that Star-Doe fortress was already dozens of kilometers behind them. Yes, he dug the underground tunnel all the way to the river and relied on the water current to carry them out. They floated along with the current and distanced themselves from the hubbub without too much effort. Tang Wulin pulled Gu into his arms as he asked softly, "Are you cold?" Gu shook her head. Even though she had lost her memories, the cold still had no effect on her since her cultivation base had not changed. "Father, you were so scary earlier. You frightened me when you were yelling at them," Gu spoke in dissatisfaction. Tang Wulin smiled and spoke, "How would they believe that I genuinely threaten your life if I didn't? It's fine now. They can't possibly discover us at this point. We'll go downstream, and I'll put on some makeup for you when we're ashore. Then, we shall both change our clothes. Everything will be fine then." Hum. "Father, I'm hungry." Gu hugged his neck. Their clothes were thoroughly soaked in water, and Tang Wulin immediately felt himself burning up as she leaned closer. Her youthful, vigorous body was more than he could handle. "Gu, have you remembered why they were calling you Gu Nan?" Tang Wulin asked. The question had been constantly clouding his mind like a haze. Gu shook her head in confusion and held him tightly. They continued to float downstream for another 5 to 6 kilometers. Tang Wulin brought Gu onto the shore when he saw a highway intersection near the riverside. "Change into dry clothes. Fath. I'll take you to a meal." The fact that he had almost addressed himself as father left Tang Wulin feeling quite awkward. "Father, I don't know how." Gu's huge eyes were filled with innocence. The corners of Tang Wulin's lip twitched once. She doesn't know how to change. Her drenched clothes left almost nothing of Gu's graceful figure to the imagination. Tang Wulin felt his face flush as his heart started beating loudly. "You're such a vexing little witch." Tang Wulin moaned as he found a corner by the roadside. Blushing, he procured a set of Gu's clothes from her storage bracelet and then passed them to her. Gu was not bothered, but it was having a drastic reaction on Tang Wulin. "Father, you hot? Why is your face turning scarlet?" Gu blinked her huge eyes as she asked. Smack! Tang Wulin raised his hand and gave her perky buttocks a slap. "Shut up. HMMPH. Gu pouted her lips in annoyance. To keep himself from behaving rashly, Tang Wulin needed just as much of his incredible willpower as he used to resist the pain of breaking through the Golden Dragon King seal. Despite their love for each other, he did not wish to do anything to Gu when she had amnesia. After Tang Wulin was done changing her, he changed into a set of dry clothes swiftly as well before pulling Gu onto the road. He then brought out the Tang sect combat vehicle that was camouflaged as an ordinary car. He drove along the road with Gu and left the place in a hurry. They could move much faster with the combat vehicle, and Tang Wulin soon discovered that the road was leading to the east by reading the road signs. He was not in a rush to return to Shrek City, so he drove all the way to a small city nearest to the highway. Exiting the highway, he entered the city, and once there, he disguised himself and Gu with makeup. "Father, why do you look old now?" Gu asked with a frown when she saw that Tang Wulin had used the makeup to age himself. Tang Wulin spoke in frustration, "You're always calling me father, so this is the most natural look for me. Speak as little as you can later." "Oh, but you're not handsome anymore," Gu muttered to herself. The two of them got off the car and entered a small hotel. He checked in for 2 rooms, so they could have a moment's rest. His expression gradually became dull when he turned on the Seoul television in his hotel room. He expected that the television stations would be showing all sorts of information related to the great disaster in Shrek City. Tang Wulin's had steadied his mind after experiencing such a catastrophe, followed by his encounters in the Great Star Do Forest. The incidents had already taken place, so it was completely meaningless for him to continue grieving. Firstly, he would need to deal with the situation he was currently facing, and he would need to figure out a way to change it. His main purpose for staying here was to clear his thoughts before he decided what to do next. He was well aware that the reason he could calm his frantic emotions was that Gu was by his side. He was at his most determined when his true love was with him. The Federation will do its duty in handling the unprecedented attack at Shrek City. The Federal Parliament announces its dissolution, and a date for elections will be set. Preliminary statistics for the fatalities in Shrek City exceed 1,200 people with over 2 million casualties. Less than 1/3 of the city's area has taken immeasurable damage. Shrek Academy is completely annihilated while the Tang sect headquarters is destroyed. According to the witnesses' accounts and satellite images, the Spirit Pagoda, which is located slightly farther away from the blast zone, would have been affected by the explosion if not for Shrek Academy's His Excellency Sea God's Pavilion Master Atlas Dolor's sacrifice in blocking the 2 Godkiller rank fixed soul ammunitions. The Federation's army has already formed an investigation squad to determine the cause of 2 Godkiller rank fixed soul ammunitions disappearance. The Commander-in-Chief has stated that they'll certainly do anything within their power to find the assailants. Such a horrific tragedy is unprecedented on the continent. The army mourns the deceased deeply. Shrek Academy's graduates are holding ceremonies in several places across the continent to mourn the students and staff that were tragically killed in the attack. The Tang sect has declared war on the Holy Spirit cult. However, the Tang sect is suffering from severe losses this time according to our sources on the inside. Their headquarters took a heavy blow with at least 4 branch masters slain, while its Dolor Hall masters' whereabouts are still unknown. Our reporter is following up on the most up-to-date information at present. The Holy Spirit cult declares responsibility for this terrorist attack, but the cult did not reveal itself until this moment. The station calls on the public to immediately report to your local district offices if you notice anything suspicious. There is a rumor that a 3rd Godkiller rank fixed soul ammunition has gone missing just like the other 2. If this is true, which city will be the target of the next Godkiller? What is the federal government actually doing? All sorts of chaotic information were continuously broadcasted through the Seoul television channels. As he watched the television, Tang Wulin did not notice that he was clenching his fists so tightly that his nails were digging into his palms. He was still hoping that everything that had happened was an illusion. He wished that everything was just like the dream created by the old demons back when they were still on Demon Island and that this was just a nightmare. Yet the reality of it all was right there before him. There was no doubt that this was not just a nightmare. As he saw 2 deep craters on the ground and the surrounding remnants of Shrek City on the television, Tang Wulin could not help but shed tears from his eyes. 1,200 people dead. Those were 1,200 living beings, yet they were killed without a thought. The #1 city on the continent. The city that never slumbered, and its academy with over 20,000 years of history was gone just like that. The enemy was cunning and cruel. Tang Wulin remained motionless for the longest time after he turned off the television. He sat there and calmed his emotions as he analyzed the information which he had just received. Judging by the current situation, Shrek City had suffered grave losses. Shrek Academy was almost completely destroyed. Tang Sect's headquarters too was utterly destroyed. The damages they suffered were innumerable. From the current situation, there were no reports on his comrades. The Holy Spirit cult? Could the Holy Spirit cult succeed in launching such an attack on its own? Was the military idling away doing nothing? Were rank 12 fixed soul ammunitions that easily stolen? The parties involved in this must have been more than just an evil soul master cult. There must be more than meets the eye. Shrek City's existence had always been a wildcard in the Federation. However, the Federation dared not do anything against Shrek City. After all, its status was well respected. Judging by the current Great Explosion, the Federation actually had the means to fight Shrek with their ultimate weapons. It was only that they had no way of doing it. Could this incident be perpetrated by the Federation, which had intended to get rid of Shrek under the name of the Evil Soul Masters? Maybe someone from the Federation had cooperated with the Evil Soul Masters to destroy Shrek City. The Holy Spirit cult would not have minded even if this chamber pot was associated with them. They were like rats that ran across the streets. The objectives of some people had already been achieved. Without the influence of Shrek Academy on the continent, it was clearly more convenient for these ambitious individuals to achieve their desires. However, Tang Wulin had no knowledge of the current situation. After all, he did not have much interest in politics. Tang Sect had also suffered a destructive blow. Clearly, like Shrek Academy, Tang Sect was dreaded by the people in power. This tragedy was more than it seemed. How about the Spirit Pagoda? Tang Sect, Shrek Academy, and the Spirit Pagoda were prestigious organizations that were on equal standing. Why were Tang Sect and Shrek Academy completely destroyed, but not the Spirit Pagoda? Their headquarters was unscathed even though it was very near to the scene of the tragedy. From the perspective of being a threat to the Evil Soul Masters, the Spirit Pagoda was more of a menace than Tang Sect. At the very least, that was the case in their demonstrated strengths. The numbers and strengths of the Soul Masters from the Spirit Pagoda's headquarters certainly surpassed that of Tang Sect's. However, the second Godkiller fixed soul ammunition did not hit the Spirit Pagoda but landed on Tang Sect's headquarters instead. Was there an ulterior motive behind all this? Although Tang Wulin did not think the Spirit Pagoda would be in cahoots with the Evil Soul Masters, there was still a small possibility nonetheless. Hence, the current Spirit Pagoda could not be trusted. This was why he did not state his identity in the Great Star Doe Forest. Currently, nobody knew that the Shrek 7 monsters were still alive. Under such circumstances, it was definitely better for them to be in the shadows rather than divulge their presence. The Holy Spirit cult was far stronger than they had expected. On the giant skull which appeared that day, there was at least one evil soul master who possessed a cultivation base that was almost at par with the Atlas Dolor. Moreover, after they had launched such a destructive terrorist attack, all evidence was most likely destroyed in the Great Explosion. It would be difficult for them to investigate. Even if they managed to find incriminating proof, they were currently on their own and could do nothing. After clearing his mind, Tang Wulin knew the one thing he could do now was to forbear. What he needed was not only his strength but a supporting force behind him. He needed a team which he could rely on to go against the Evil Soul Masters. Tang Wulin slowly opened his eyes and walked to the window. Although he had asked for 2 rooms, he was currently in the same room as Guu. Guu was curled up in bed and was sound asleep for a long time. Her entire body was covered by the blanket. Her long hair spread on top of the bed, and her long eyelashes curled against her cheeks. She was as beautiful as an oversized doll. Tang Wulin glanced at her and immediately felt at ease. He returned to gaze outside the window. He took out his soul communicator slowly and switched it on. He dialed a number. Tang Wulin felt an inexplicable nervousness. If this number could not be connected, it would have an ominous bearing on him. This call would be the decisive indicator of whether he was truly alone. Wulin, a slightly anxious voice came from the receiver. When Tang Wulin heard the voice, he was a little stunned. He drew a deep breath, but his voice still trembled despite himself. Xinglan, I'm all right. The other end of the receiver went silent. Just when Tang Wulin feared the worst, a deafening cheer suddenly came from the receiver. Tears immediately streaked down Tang Wulin's cheeks. He heard their voices. The cacophony of voices included Yi Xinglan, Xie Xie, Yuanan, Xu Xiaoyuan, and Xu Lixi. Everyone was there. Even though their voices were slightly hysterical from their excitement, Tang Wulin could still single out their individual voices. It's them, it's really them. They're all alive, they're all well. Tang Wulin felt himself choked and at a loss for words. They are definitely the lucky survivors of the disaster. Big brother, Xie Xie cried and shouted through the receiver. Tang Wulin grunted in reply. He managed to suppress his emotions and regained his ability to speak. Big brother, where are you? Are you really alive? I'm not dreaming, am I? Xie Xie's voice trembled. Tang Wulin could feel the excitement in his voice at this moment. I'm still alive, I'm all right. You saved me. The token she gave me had transported her to my side in the nick of time. Then, we were transported together to a faraway place. I'm all right now. I'm currently in a small city about 200 kilometers away from Shrek City. I don't even know the name of this city. What about you guys? Where are you guys now? Is everyone all right? Yi Xinglan retrieved the soul communicator from Xie Xie. We're all right, we're in Heaven Do City right now. Her Excellency the Holy Spirit Doluo is fine as well. But her emotions are... Holy Spirit Doluo? Tang Wulin's body shook. It was true. The Holy Spirit Doluo seemed to have fainted the other day. She was still alive. With such a hyper Doluo alive, things were better than he expected. However, when he thought about her relationship with Yunming, Tang Wulin felt his heart wrench. He imagined putting himself in her shoes. If something had happened to Gu, how much pain would he be in? Comfort Her Excellency first. I'll meet up with you guys as soon as possible. Also, Xinglan, don't contact anyone for now, including Tang Sect. The academy is done for, but we must be strong. As a reminder of the Pavilion Master's final words, we're the last hope of the academy. Will the academy only have hope if we're well and alive? Now, we must protect ourselves first, do you understand? So, whatever you do, do not expose your identities. It's best to be in disguise at all times. Yes, I think so too, said Yi Xinglan. We had our disguises on before we came to Heaven Do City, but we didn't contact anyone. The other day, we thought we saw Gu appear, but we weren't sure if you were destroyed by the fixed soul ammunition or if you were still alive. That's why we've been waiting ever since we came here. Wulin, please come. We're waiting for you. Please be careful. Tang Wulin noticed that Yi Xinglan, who had always been calm and steady, now appeared to be in heart-wrenching pain. Okay, wait for me. I'll head over as soon as possible. Keep in touch. Tang Wulin ended the call and wiped the tears on his face. He heaved a long sigh. At least his comrades were still alive. At this moment, what news could be more wonderful than that? Gradually, a plan formed in his mind. He would meet up with his comrades first, then find a way to heal Gu. After that, he would look for an opportunity to restore Shrek. He had to use all the resources at his disposal. Heaven Do City would be a conducive place. He held his soul communicator. After a moment's hesitation, he switched it off. Two persons came to mind when he thought of whom he could seek help from at this hour. One of them was his body sect master and teacher, while the other was naturally his divine craftsman uncle master. Even so, he was in no rush to contact them. He decided to wait until he reached Heaven Do City. Besides, the Holy Spirit cult was merciless, hence, his uncle master might not be in the safest of circumstances. He was the only divine craftsman on the continent. Although he might not be a direct threat to the Holy Spirit cult, he could still produce forward battle armors. Tang Wulin returned to the bed. When he lay down on the bed, exhaustion immediately overcame his entire body. However, it was not physical exhaustion, but a mental one. He only felt better after he hugged Guu through the blanket. He soon fell into a deep sleep. Both of them woke up the next day. It was already late morning. They ate some food, then drove the Tang sect combat vehicle. They sped along the road. Tang Wulin had already taken a look at the navigation tool on the vehicle. He chose a route which had a slight detour and was in the opposite direction of Shrek City. He was headed toward Heaven-Do City. At this moment, he could not afford to be imprudent. Throughout their journey, the mechas flew past their heads as many as 6 times. 3 fighter aircraft flew past them as well. It was inconceivable just how tense the situation was around Shrek City. The great explosion has touched the lives of countless people. The entire population on the continent was so scared that they were even afraid of their own shadows. Tang Wulin finally drove into Heaven-Do City at dusk. He contacted Yi Xinglan again and finally met up with everyone in a small, remote hotel. The others almost rushed up to him. Everyone gave him a big hug. Xu Xiaoyan and Xu Lixi were sobbing away. Everyone knew that if it were not for Tang Wulin coming to their rescue that day and took the blow from the powerful fixed soul ammunition whose rank was unknown, they would all have been dead. Back then, Tang Wulin had no idea that Guu would appear to save him. You're finally back. If you're back, I can also be free of this heavy responsibility. Captain, welcome back to the team, Yi Xinglan solemnly said to Tang Wulin. Yes, they were the Shrek Squad, the final rays of hope for Shrek Academy. Moreover, they were the current generation of the Shrek 7 monsters. They could not shirk the responsibility of reviving Shrek. Father, who are they? At this moment, a slightly puzzled voice came from behind Tang Wulin. The atmosphere that had been slightly grim before this immediately changed. Guu poked out her head from behind Tang Wulin. Big brother, what's this? Role play? Xie stammered. Tang Wulin pulled Guu by her hand to his side. He smiled bitterly. Do you think that I have the mood for role play? Guu had helped me block that great explosion. I'm not even sure what happened during that time. When we regained consciousness, she had lost her memory. Then, she kept calling me father. Lost her memory? She's Guu? Isn't she Eneo? Xu Xiaoyan stopped crying for a while and looked at Guu. Tang Wulin smiled bitterly and shook his head. He briefly recounted the events that transpired after he met Guu, and how he recognized her as Guu although she looked like Eneo now to his comrades. Xie tried a question. Guu, do you know who I am? Other than Tang Wulin, he and Xu Xiaoyan had known Guu the longest. I don't. Guu shook her head. She was at a loss. Yi Xinglan, who had always been strong, had reddened eyes. It's all because she wanted to save us. What do we do about her current condition? Can she be treated? Tang Wulin smiled bitterly and said, I don't know. After we were out of danger, I've chosen to come and meet you guys. We'll have to think of a way to treat her after this. The thing is, I'm also unsure if we're able to with this condition of hers. Let me have a look, a very hoarse voice sounded. A person walked out from the inner room. When Tang Wulin saw her, he almost could not believe his own eyes. Yoli had changed, her outer appearance had changed completely. She seemed to be severely dehydrated. Her face looked pale and lacked vitality. She was thin to the bone. Her initially unrivaled beautiful face even appeared withered. Her long hair was now grayish-white. It was as if she had grown old overnight. Your Excellency, you, Tang Wulin looked at her with shock. Yoli staggered slightly as she walked. She slowly made her way over to Tang Wulin and shook her head at him. Her eyes were bloodshot and lifeless. She raised her hand, which glowed with a gentle white light, and lightly pressed it against Gu's forehead. The most horrible thing that could ever happen to a person was to die inside. Without a doubt, the Holy Spirit Doluor's heart had died alongside Atlas Doluor. Amidst the white halo unleashed by Yoli, Gu appeared at a loss and was flustered. However, it was apparent that she did not feel anything. After a while, Yoli slowly retracted her hand. She had a slight frown. Her condition is quite unique, there are no abnormalities in her bodily functions. Her soul C must have suffered some kind of blow which led to the malfunction of her brain cells. This has sealed her memory, which puts her in a state of memory loss. Tang Wulin asked anxiously, can her condition be cured? Yoli replied, it's not easy. The most complicated organ of the human body is the brain. The brain is an extremely mysterious entity. According to the Federation's research, there's been limited breakthrough regarding the human brain, and there's no way we can know all its secrets. The most we can do is to divide the brain into a few simple regions. But there's no clear definition regarding these regions. It's also one of the more important research areas of soul technology. We have to treat her prudently, otherwise we might injure her nerve cells in the process and cause irreversible damage to her. After hearing her words, Tang Wulin could not help but drew a cold breath. This person before him was the current best recovery system soul master on the continent. If she said that Gu's condition was complicated, then it was truly complicated. As she saw Tang Wulin's changing complexion, Yoli said, don't you worry, it's not as if there's absolutely nothing we can do about her condition. Generally speaking, when we're presented with such conditions, we need only find a suitable heaven and earth treasures to help her strengthen her bodily functions. This includes her brain's nerves as well. We'll strengthen her body's resistance to eliminate the pathogenic factors to restore her brain to normal. Naturally, her memory will recover. The only heaven and earth treasure that comes to mind which can treat her condition is called velvet skyreach chrysanthemum. It's very rare, and we need one that's at least 10,000 years old. If Shrek was still around, we could have utilized the Academy's resources to search for it, but now, as she said this, her gaze instantly darkened. Everyone fell silent. Everyone's heart seemed to be weighed down by a block of heavy lead. Shrek was no more, their roots were no more. Tang Wulin drew a deep breath. Your Excellency, we'll definitely rebuild Shrek and regain Shrek's glory on the continent. I promise. Yoli nodded slightly, but a bitterness showed on her face. The future depends on all of you. I'll support you with all I have. After she said this, she turned around and went back into the room. Her staying alive already displayed her great determination. She held on to the hopes of seeing Shrek rebuilt and also fulfilling the final wishes of Atlas Doluor. As the Sea God Pavilion Master, Yun Ming witnessed Shrek Academy's destruction. The pain he experienced was beyond comprehension. If it were not for the support she had from the thought of fulfilling his final wishes, Yoli would have followed him to the netherworld already. Velvet Skyreach Chrysanthemum. Tang Wulin pulled on Gu's hand. His spirits were determined. This heaven and earth treasure would be found sooner or later. He would most certainly cure Gu. He was currently the backbone for the group. No matter what, he could not stay idle. Shrek was left with their meager strengths now. As the captain, he could not shy away from shouldering this immense burden and Shrek's hopes. Everyone, get a grip. The skies have not fallen on us yet. Shrek still has us. Since the Academy has chosen us as the current Shrek 7 monsters, it means that we're capable enough. Shrek's future depends on us now. It's our responsibility and our duty. The Academy has nurtured us, and we take pride in being a part of the Academy. In my heart, Shrek is forever the best Academy in the world. Regardless of how long it takes, we must push forward courageously. We must get back on our feet from where we have fallen. Yi Xinglan planted her feet firmly beside Tang Wulin. She said with a low voice, Wulin, tell us. What should we do from now on? Tang Wulin lowered his voice and said, the current situation on the outside is extremely complicated. The Academy has been destroyed and the Federal Congress is dissolved. The continent is currently in a chaotic state. In this situation, we can't rely on nor trust anyone else. When I was little, my father told me something once, and I still remember it vividly as if it was yesterday. He said that a man can only rely on himself his entire life. I believe that deeply. Now, the ones whom we can fully trust and rely on are ourselves. I'm not afraid of death, but we're all the seeds of the academy. We can't easily reveal ourselves during times like these. Everyone thinks that we've died alongside the academy. That's our only advantage for now. We're still in the dark. So, for the time being, I've decided to lay low for a while and not contact anyone. We'll observe the situation without doing anything first, at least until things have settled down outside, then we'll start strategizing. At the same time, we must analyze the people that we can trust, and those whom we can ask for help. We must also observe who benefited the most from this great disaster. I don't believe that the Holy Spirit cult is capable of stealing 2 God-killer rank fixed soul ammunitions and fire them within Shrek City. There must be some other force that's helping them. We'll have to at least find a target. After we have our target, we can make better preparations. While we're laying low, we must also improve our strengths and complete elevation to the rank of 2-word battle armor masters. Only when we're at such a rank will we have the power to protect ourselves. As Tang Wulin was stating his thoughts, he had no intention of discussing it with his companions. Democracy was not needed now. They needed someone who was decisive to lead them forward. Without a doubt, Tang Wulin was the only one who was capable of doing this. After they had heard his words, everyone's eyes were ablaze. They had their goal now and tasks that they wanted to accomplish. At least they would no longer feel like they were at a total loss. "Where shall we hide?" asked Yu Zhengyu. Without a doubt, the small hotel that they were currently staying in was unsuitable. They could not even refine their battle armor to 2-word rank there. They needed resources and a suitably quiet place to carry on with their work. Tang Wulin replied, "I'll think of something." As he said this, he fished out his own soul communicator and dialed a number. This was the first person whom he had contacted other than his companions. "Wulin," a slightly hurried voice came from the other end of the soul communicator. Tears immediately came to Tang Wulin's eyes when heard this voice. He managed to suppress his surging emotions as he softly responded, "Teacher." Yes, the first person he chose to contact was one of his teachers. The person was the current sect master of the body sect, Body de Lure Mu Yi. Mu Yi said hurriedly, "Where are you? Are you all right?" "Shrek." Tang Wulin smiled bitterly. "Teacher, I'm all right. Where are you? Also, is my uncle master doing well?" When he heard Tang Wulin's question, Mu Yi immediately fell silent. "Your uncle master is..." Tang Wulin's heart tightened. Did something happen to him? Did things turn out as he expected? He had anticipated that the Holy Spirit cult would not leave his uncle master, the only divine craftsman on the continent, since they were bold enough to lay hands on Shrek and the Tang sect. Mu Yi replied, "Fortunately, I was by his side. We ran quick enough, and he's still alive, but his wounds are very serious. His body is invaded by the evil soul master's dark spirit, and he's currently comatose. We're in the mountains on the outskirts of Heaven-Do City. There's a body sect safe house here." After Tang Wulin had heard Mu Yi's words, he sighed in relief. At least his uncle master was still alive. Tang Wulin squinted slightly. "Teacher, can you give me an address? We'll head over." Mu Yi paused, seemingly pondering something. After a while, he said, "Wulin, you'll have to prove your identity to me first. You're on the official list of casualties, you know?" Tang Wulin said, "Of course. How shall I prove myself?" Mu Yi asked, "What's your current forging rank?" Tang Wulin replied, "Saint Craftsman rank. I've just attained this rank when I was learning under you and Uncle Master in Heaven-Do City. At the same time, I learned how to carefully control my body's energy down to every fiber of my muscles from you. You've taught me that when I can control my body at the cellular level, then I have truly mastered the body sect's secret technique." Phew! Mu Yi seemed to have heaved a long sigh. "All right, I'll also prove my identity to you." Back then, when we were traveling to the Star Luo Empire, I laid a firm foundation for you throughout the 49 days of basic training. The edge of Tang Wulin's lips twitched slightly. Teacher, please tell me your address. We'll rush over as soon as possible. All right. Mu Yi gave him an address and the route they should take. Tang Wulin ended the call and sighed in relief. The few people that he could think of trusting right now were naturally his teachers and Uncle Master. Teacher Mu Chen was already in Shrek City from the beginning, but his fate was unknown. Hence, the first people he thought of contacting were naturally Mu Yi and Zhenhua. Upon ending the call with Mu Yi, he immediately dialed another number. When he dialed this number, his hand was trembling slightly. The ringtone rang about 5 times, but nobody picked up. Tang Wulin's heart could not help but sink into the bottom of the valley. Just when he was about to end the call suddenly connected. Who's this? A low and hoarse voice came from the other end. When Tang Wulin heard this voice, his body shook tremendously. He could no longer control his own emotions. He immediately started sobbing. Teacher? Wulin, the voice on the other end immediately raised an octave. Wulin, you're still alive? Where are you? The loud voice could even be heard by Tang Wulin's companions around him. Yes, this voice belonged to Mu Chen. He was the very same craftsman of the generation who brought Tang Wulin onto the broad path of the forging world. Teacher, it's me. I'm still alive, I've escaped. It's difficult to explain. It's great that you're all right. Where are you? Mu Chen's breathing was obviously very agitated. After his heavy breathing continued for a few seconds, he managed to calm his emotions down. I'm in Heaven-Do City. I wanted to look for your Uncle Master, but the day before yesterday, the Blacksmiths Association's headquarters in Heaven-Do City was under attack and your Uncle Master went missing. It's chaos in the headquarters right now. I'm assuming personal command, but don't come here. There's no guarantee of safety no matter where you are right now. We'll talk more when things are settled down on my part. You should go find a place to hide first. It's good that you're all right. It's all that matters. Don't worry. Your sister master and I are unharmed. I brought her back to East Sea City before this, and we were lucky enough to be spared from this disaster. Finally, there was some good news. Tang Wulin heaved a great sigh of relief. His entire body relaxed. All right, teacher, you take care as well. Tang Wulin ended the call and panted heavily. He instinctively proceeded to dial another number, but Yi Xinglan reached over and stopped him. Wulin, calm down. Tang Wulin's heart shuddered and he stopped dialing. Without a doubt, the more people they contacted, the higher the possibility of them being exposed. He put down the communicator and switched it off. I'm sorry. I was too excited. In their current situation, they could never be too careful. We'll rest for the day and depart tomorrow. We'll go look for my teacher and Uncle Master first and settle ourselves there. Then, we'll ask Her Excellency Holy Spirit Dolor to take a look at my Uncle Master and see if she can treat him. If it was an invasion by evil spirits, the Holy Spirit Dolor should be well qualified to fight against it. The night went by without much conversation. Early the next morning, they ate their breakfast and went on their way silently. Tang Wulin's Tang sect combat vehicle could carry 8 passengers under normal circumstances. With the current edition of Holy Spirit Dolor Yoli, there were 9 of them in total, so it was slightly cramped. They had no choice but to squeeze the few thinner girls at the back. Everyone kept quiet throughout the trip. The blow from the recent incident was too great for them all. They dared not even think about the teachers who had taught them and their friends with whom they had classes together before this. Fortunately, they at least had their spiritual pillar of support. Their loved ones were still by their sides. Holy Spirit Dolor Yoli was the only exception. She sat in the vehicle and threw her lifeless gaze outside the window. She seemed to have lost her soul. Guu was the only one who seemed very happy in the vehicle. She kept smiling at Tang Wulin and called him father with a sweet voice. It was only during moments like these when everyone looked at Tang Wulin with peculiar expressions did the mood lighten up a bit. After reaching the mountainous region, the road started to become bumpy. Fortunately, the Tang sect combat vehicle lived up to its name. It could traverse most road conditions. Finally, in a faraway corner, a house made of rocks appeared in their sights. If Mu Yi had not given them detailed directions, it would not have been easy for them to find this place. When Tang Wulin saw Mu Yi push the door open and walk out from the inside, his eyes reddened again. Being able to meet someone so dear to him after a great disaster left him almost unable to control his own emotions. Mu Yi was just as excited when he saw him. He rushed at Tang Wulin and gave him a big hug. "This is wonderful. I thought that the body sect's best disciple in 1,000 years was killed along with everyone else, but here you are, safe and sound." Naturally, the others knew Mu Yi, besides Yoli and Ji Yu having lost her memories. They all went forward and paid their respects. "All right, let's talk more inside." The house of rock blended in so well with the surrounding mountains that it would even be overlooked even when seen from a satellite. After they had entered the rock house, they discovered that it was a world of its own. The house was directly connected to the mountains in the rear, and there was a vast cavern inside them. There were at least a dozen soul masters with formidable cultivation bases inside. It was apparent from their outer characteristics that they were all soul masters from the body sect. "Teacher, how's my uncle master doing now?" asked Tang Wulin. Mu Yi said, "His condition is still stable, but he shows no signs of improving. The one who attacked him was an evil soul master close to the ranks of a limit Dolor. If it weren't for your uncle master's 3-word battle armor, I'm afraid he would have been beyond help. Come, I'll bring all of you to him." Tang Wulin turned toward Holy Spirit Dolor. "Aunt Yoli, you." It was Yoli who told them to address her as such instead of using her excellency. Yoli nodded. Mu Yi stared at her with his eyes fixed on her face. He sighed inwardly but said nothing as he led the way in front of everyone. Zhenhua had been recuperating in the inner regions of the mountain's depths. He had lain down quietly on a bed made of rock and shut his eyes tightly. His face was pale, and on the surface of his skin, a faint greenish aura could be seen. It made the entire interior of the rock room seem gloomy. Mu Yi lowered his voice and said, "When battle armor reaches the ranks of 4-word, it attains a certain amount of intelligence. It's no exaggeration to call it the Soul Master's second body. Zhenhua's current condition is that his battle armor had shielded his vital organs and managed to block the invasion of the evil spirit. However, this evil spirit is too powerful. I've tried many methods, only for it to almost infect me as well. I had no choice but to give up. With the power of his 4-word battle armor, the most he could do was maintain this state of equilibrium. However, nobody could be sure what would happen if this situation dragged on." Yoli walked to the side of Zhenhua's bed. When she saw the greenish glow on Zhenhua's face, her eyes finally had some gleam of life in them. Soul rings rose slowly from beneath her feet. With her gradually intensifying divine aura, the dark atmosphere within the cavern was immediately dispersed. With the unleashing of her martial soul, her own body seemed to have been invigorated. Her initially withered look regained its peerless beauty. Mu Yi, who was looking on from the side, could not help but feel shocked. Yoli's soul rings shone brightly, and she exuded a gentle white light from her body. The light covered Zhenhua's body and entered it like strands of silk. Above him, a glowing white vortex started to form. The greenish aura clinging to him was sucked out like strings by the pull of the white vortex. Without a sound, it was engulfed by the white light and vanished. A shrill howl rang out. It sounded exactly like the furious roars of wraiths. However, in the face of the white vortex, the cries of these phantoms started to weaken. Greenish orbs were consecutively sucked out of Zhenhua's body and were ground to dust by the vortex. Zhenhua's complexion started to improve. Mu Yi looked at Yoli's treatment of Zhenhua with amazement. He could not help feeling greatly shaken. He could tell that this was a hyper-Dolor-ranked soul master from the shockwave of Yoli's aura. Also, Yoli was not an ordinary hyper-Dolor, but a recovery system hyper-Dolor. What did this mean? At least, as far as he could recall, he had never seen a recovery system soul master of such rank. It was already very difficult for a recovery system to cultivate to the rank of a title dolor, leave alone a hyper dolor. Moreover, the ranks of Yoli's soul rings were not weak at all. 2 of her soul rings were red in color whereas the others were all black. Even Muyi himself could not match up to her in terms of his soul rings ranks. This person must have had a high position in Shrek Academy, right? When the final green light orb was sucked out, Yoli's gaze turned grim instead. Her body was shining with a layer of golden light. First, a pair of great golden wings unfurled behind her. Shortly after, golden armor emerged and swiftly covered her entire body, completely enveloping her. A golden light ring rose from under her feet. Within the golden ring, many golden feather-shaped patterns intertwined with each other. Upon its appearance, it was as though the entire cavern was painted gold. The initial gloominess was nowhere to be seen. At the same time, the whole cavern room was filled with a divine aura. A hymn echoed through the cavern. It was indescribably pleasing to the ears. Everyone present there felt as if their very souls were being purified. A crown appeared on Yoli's head, with 3 little angels dancing on top of it. She raised her right hand and a shining gold scepter appeared in her grasp. Her aura was instantly raised to a level where even Muyi had to look up in awe. Forward battle armor. This was the first time that anyone present there had witnessed the Holy Spirit Dolor release her battle armor and martial soul at full power. Although her aura was formidable, it was not domineering or suppressing. Instead, it made everyone feel as if their souls were purified. She pointed at Zhenhua's body with the scepter. Immediately, Zhenhua's skin turned purple. Then, this purple mass started surging outward like a swarm of bees and formed a massive purple skull in the air. It roared at Yoli. Yoli's eyes glowed with a divine golden color as well. They were filled with coldness and anger. Holy Spirit! A beam of dazzling golden light shot out from the tip of her scepter. The purple skull shone brightly with violet light, but it had only held its ground for an instant. It was shattered by that holy light and was purified. However, an evil thought also echoed through the cavern: the Holy Spirit isn't dead. The golden light dimmed and Yoli retracted the forward battle armor into her body. Her powerful aura vanished, but strangely, her grayish-white hair had turned black again. Her looks were also restored to their immaculate beauty. Her life energy, which she had expended before this, seemed to have replenished after her martial soul was unleashed. In truth, at Yoli's rank, when she used her forward battle armor, her cultivation base could reach the ranks of a limit dolor. With her cultivation base, it would not be easy even if she wanted to die, let alone just expending her life energy. Zhenhua's complexion was already restored to normal as his color slowly returned to him. All traces of gloominess had vanished. Muyi looked at Yoli in shock. Then, he looked at Zhenhua before he said earnestly, "Thank you, Your Excellency." Yoli only shook her head softly and walked off to the side. Her gaze resumed its lifeless look, and she resembled the walking dead once more. Just when Tang Wulin and the others felt that Zhenhua needed more time before he would recover, the divine craftsman laying on the rock bed heaved a great sigh and slowly opened his eyes. It was undeniable that the Holy Spirit Dolor was the best in the world when it came to healing. Zhenhua sat up. He looked at himself, then he looked at Tang Wulin and Muyi beside him. He said with astonishment, "I'm all right? That evil spirit." He was halfway through his sentence when he saw the Holy Spirit Dolor standing at the side. He hastily got down from the bed and said respectfully, "Your Excellency Holy Spirit." Yoli glanced at him and nodded slightly without saying anything. Zhenhua calmed his emotions. He knew beyond all doubt that it was thanks to her that he was able to come out of this unharmed. However, he could also tell from Yoli's gaze that she had suffered some terrible blow. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.